Welcome, class. My name is Nancy Gomez Fajardo, and today I'll be talking about differentiating speech disorders in children. So we'll go ahead to the table of contents. We'll be talking about articulation disorders, phonological disorders, childhood apraxia of speech, also known as CAS, and we'll also be comparing all three disorders towards the end. To include, we'll be talking about assessments and treatments of each disorder, and we'll also just see how they differ. Okay, so going on, articulation disorders. So per Gilliam and Marquette, this is the difficulty producing speech sounds and speech sound sequences. Whether it is a delay or disorder, a child diagnosed with an articulation disorder can have difficulty with producing the beginning and end of words. This includes past, present, and future tenses, such as I walked, with the t sound at the end missing, or grapes, and the child just says apes. This becomes something to look into when your child is making these mistakes past their chronological age, and that falls into the linguistic knowledge aspect. As for the motor and breath movements, and also communication is affected when a child has articulation disorders. They can have trouble with breathing, their jaw, lips, and tongue, and also vocal folds, and just controlling their breath. And so that can also affect their communication. It's not as easy. Okay, so going on to assessments. Assessments for articulation disorders can range from speech samples to comprehension assessments to single word articulation tests. It all depends on the degree of the child's speech delay or disorder. It can range from mild, moderate to severe. Severe being that the child has to use augmentative communication systems. So like pushing a button to reference what they are trying to say. SLP compares these assessments to children of the same chronological age and search for an etiology, where the speech disorder comes from. And according to ASHA, assessments for articulation disorders can also include parent, teacher, and self-report measures from questionnaires, and also a dynamic assessment. This helps SLPs, and I quote, distinguish between language differences and a language disorder, end quote. And of course, that is from ASHA. So moving on to treatment for articulation disorders, this can be motor practice, activity opportunities, complexity approach, and naturalistic speech intelligibility intervention. I do apologize. That's a wordful. So basically, the last one is talking about applying everyday activities to their vocabulary. For example, reading labels in a grocery store. The complexity approach is just going in a hierarchy, trying to work from the bottom to up, from phonemes to fricatives to clusters. And as for activities, it's just playing like flashcards and trying to add that end word or that beginning word that the child is having trouble with. Okay, so phonological disorders. Per Gilliam and Marquette, it's the difficulty in understanding and implementing language convention for producing speech sounds and speech sound sequences. And that can be found on page 392 of our book. A better understanding of phonological disorder can be put simply in phonetics. For example, a child can use the SH sound for a ch, the CH sound. So instead of saying chicken, he's going to be saying chicken with the SH sound. Another phonological aspect that is affected is the repetition of single and multisyllabic words, according to ASHA. So assessment. this includes similar to articulation disorders, so it can vary based on the degree or delay of the disorder. Again, these range from mild, moderate to severe. Mind you, before any of these assessments are done, a hearing test must be performed. So as for the client knowledge, it focuses on mental knowledge of rules for speech production. Assessments can include quantitative measures according to ASHA. This is the process of calculating the percentage of words understood in conversational speech with the child. And I end quote. As for speech sound assessments, they're similar to articulation, but here the focus is on phonological patterns. And for assessments, it also includes a phonological process. So here it's the final consonant deletion, reduplication, which the child repeats the syllable twice during assessment. And here, let me see. In short, phonological awareness focuses on sound structure, phonological wording, working memory, it focuses on short-term memory, and retrieval focuses on long-term memory phonology. Okay, so treatment. I'm going to go ahead and click through all this so you can understand what the main goal is. So the goal of phonological disorder treatment is to have the child use speech sounds and syllable sequences to communicate ideas. So all of these three connect. For speech sounds, however, there is a metaphone approach that focuses on increasing the child's knowledge of the phonological system, where the syllables, the contrast therapy focuses on the SLP uses graphics during treatments, and the child has to distinguish between different sounds. So the difference between a F sound and a B sound, like F and B. And distinctive feature therapy is a treatment approach that ASHA suggests for those who have a phonological disorder. This therapy focuses teaching the child to sound one particular phoneme and be able to apply it to different words and expand their knowledge. Okay, so childhood apraxia of speech. So childhood apraxia of speech is very unknown. There's not much etiology of what causes the disorder or how it comes about. However, it does impact speech sound production, annotation, word stress, according to Gilliam and Marquette on their book on page 192. Okay, so assessments that can be done for CAS, they can range from speech samples, speech intelligibility tests, I'm so sorry, comprehensive tests, and the oropharyngeal examination. So I'll explain each of these. So speech samples is basically an SLP identifying problems with respiration, phonation, resonance, and articulation. And per ASHA, a comprehensive test for childhood apraxia is to understand the impact of communication impairments on the quality of life of the child and family. So it's just seeing overall, okay, how does their communication affect between family members, them and family members and teachers. These speech intelligibility tests, SLPs have their child patients repeat words and phrases during this assessment to see exactly how they pronounce certain words and sounds and determine if there are any difficulties interacting with certain speech muscles. And lastly, Gilliam and Marquette recommend the oropharyngeal examination, which is a examination on the structures such as the tongue, the jaw, the lips at rest and during non-speech and speech activity. So the SLP will definitely be looking into all of these things if your child is diagnosed with CAS. So treatment. Treatments can be motor programming approaches, linguistic approaches, combination, and rhythmic. So motor approaches, to summarize, is just a focus on repetitions of speech movement, particularly the jaw, lips, and tongue area. So now we're working on that. Where it was a exam, now we're focusing on how to move those muscles in those areas. Linguistic focuses on speech sounds, rules, sequences, and use of language, where the combination approach combines motor and linguistic treatments. So it combines both of the top ones together. And the rhythmic approaches focuses on rhythm and stress of speech. Okay, so lastly, comparison. So articulation disorder, of course, it's difficulties producing speech sounds. Etiology can be found in this disorder. As for phonological disorder, there's difficulties with using phonological rules for language. Etiology cannot be found. It's similar to that of CAS, where etiology cannot be found, but speech production is inconsistent and intonation and word stress are altered for CAS. So those are the differences between each disorder. And it is on Gilliam and Marquette's book on page 109 and 192. And here are the resources. ASHA really helps to distinguish these disorders if you want further information. And also a thanks to SlideGo for providing this slideshow template and logos and pictures. Thanks, class. Bye.